So yeah, I think yesterday we are discussing about the CIDR, which we have taken as an example. So let me continue from there. I think we lost the signal, right? So what I will do is like I will just do a recalculation of it. Okay. So what I am saying is yesterday we have taken one CIDR called 192.168.120.0/24. So this is our CIDR, which is called as classless inter-domain resource. Now, in this, your first portion is related to the network, okay, and then we have /24 is nothing but your subnet, okay. Subnet is also represented in IPv4 format, which means that it will have 32-bit size, 4 bytes. That's how it is represented, right? So that is it. So that's the reason I have written the network part and the subnet. Subnet I converted into binary and then I converted into decimal. Okay, so in decimal it looks like 255.255.255.0. That is equivalent to /24. Okay, now which class it is? By looking at the first byte itself, we can tell which class it is, right? So by looking at the first class, as per the table which we have discussed yesterday, if you scroll down a bit, okay, if you scroll down a bit, just a second, to open this, if I scroll down a bit, see, from this table we understood that 192 is nothing but it falls under class C network, right? So as per our guess, it is correct, right? And what is the default subnet for class C? As per this particular table, you can see that the default subnet mask for class C network is /24, and our CIDR is also using /24. So keep that aside. But the default subnet mask for class C is nothing but /24. Okay, and here also you can tell that /24 in this is 255.255.255.0, right? Binary, you already know that how it is represented. Okay, now we let's assume that we contacted the networking team and we told them that I want a network where I can attach 250 missions. Let's say they want to attach at least 200 or 250 devices. That's their expectation actually. So you said that I want to connect these many devices. So then network team has calculated and they have given you some particular network. Okay, you're not bothered whether it is a class C or class A or class B network. Okay, you got a network, let's assume like that. Now after getting that, you have to know whether this particular CIDR is really eligible to calculate to connect these many devices. Okay, you told that I want only one network and that network should have 250 IP address. Okay, so let us see whether that condition is getting satisfied or not. So now how to calculate number of networks? Okay, how will you calculate that with a given CIDR? How you can tell that how many networks can be created in that sub networks? So this is your main network 192.168.120.0. Can this be divided into multiple networks? Yes or no? Let's see. The calculation which I've told yesterday is nothing but 2 to the power of n. Okay. So 2 to the power of n. N is nothing but number of net host bits, or let's say number of network bits, right? Number of network bits borrowed from the host. Okay. What is your default subnet /24? What is your subnet /24? Did we borrowed anything? Nothing, right? So we haven't borrowed anything. So it is 2 to the power of 0. Okay, from the host bit we haven't borrowed anything. Okay, your subnet mask and your class C's default sub has been increased, right? So that's the reason it is 0. So 2 to the power of value is nothing but 0 is nothing but 1. So we have only one network. So our condition is satisfied. One condition is satisfied. We want only one network. So that condition is satisfied right now. In that network we want 250 devices at least to be connected. So let's see how to find number of IP addresses in each network. I'm not talking about the whole network. I'm talking about the each network which you create. So in this we have we have only one network. So in this one network, how many devices, how many IP addresses can be used in each network? So to calculate that, again the same formula 2 to the power of n, but here n is nothing but number of host bits. Okay. What is the number of host bits? Totally we have 8. Okay, the number of host bits. See, your class C network default subnet mask is slash 24, and you are also using 24. So you haven't borrowed anything from here. All other bits are nothing but host bits. So totally how many bits we have here? 8. So 2 to the power of 8 is nothing but 256. So if it is 256, number of IP addresses in each network is nothing but 256. Okay, in this I told you one more point after this calculation is nothing but in each network, first IP address and last IP address you should not use. Means you will be allocating for someone. What is that? Is nothing but gateway and broadcast. So gateway and broadcast. So two IP addresses you cannot use. Okay, only rest of the IP addresses you can allocate to your devices, whether it is a printer, router, sorry, whether it is a printer, PC, laptop, or whether it is your mobile devices or whatever it is, you will be allocating for the next of the IP addresses. So how will you calculate the 2 to the power of n minus 2? Okay, n is nothing but number of host bits. So 2 to the power of 8 minus 2 is nothing but 254. Those are the number of IP addresses which we can allocate to your device. Okay, so this is how it is calculated, right? So let's take one more example. So in this, what will be your starting IP address? 192.168.120.1. Actually, it will start with 1 and it will end with 192.168.120.255. So these are the IP addresses which you can allocate. Let's say if I want to allocate to the system, leave the first IP address and last IP address. So gateway IP address is nothing but, I'll tell you what is a gateway. 192.168.120.1. This is your gateway. Generally, we give the first IP address or the second IP address for gateway. So 192.168.120.255. This is your broadcast. So what are the next IP addresses? 192.168.120.2. It will start at 2 and it will end at 192.168.120.254. This is the range which you can allocate to the devices. So if you see, almost you got 254 IP address, which is your requirement is also satisfied. Second requirement, right? You want only one network. In that one network, you want 254 devices at least to be connected. So they are available. Okay. So let us take one more example so that you can understand better than this. Okay. Now, let me explain about gateway and then I will take one more example. So gateway is nothing but let's say whether you have switch or a router. Okay, whether you have a switch or a router. So in this you have a network 192.168.120.0 slash 24. This is what we have the network, which we got it from the provider. Okay, let's assume like that. Okay, this is your internet service provider, for example. Okay, now let's say you are connecting some devices can be anything, right? So let's say these are like PCs or laptop, whatever it is. I don't want to be so specific, so let's say there are devices. Okay, now these devices are, let's say, connected to this particular switch or a router. It can be through cable, LAN cable, or through Wi-Fi router. Okay, now you'll get an IP address from this. So we already told that you have to use an IP address called from 2 to 254. Okay, so for this particular system device, you will be allocating the IP address like 192.168.120.3. Okay, and you have to mention the gateway as well. What is your gateway? So 192.168.120.1. So gateway and broadcast will be common for all these particular devices. Okay, why I will tell you. And the IP address will change. So here it will be 192.168.120.4. Okay, and the gateway will be 192.168.120.1. and the broadcast will be 192.168.120 because your devices are connected to this particular network. Okay, so here also it's the same. Let's see about this particular two devices. Okay, now let's say I want to communicate from this particular system to this particular device. So how it is that possible? So you will send a packet, let's say some ping request or something. Let's say if you say ping 192.168.120. Let's say 4. Okay, now when you try to execute this command, your packet will go to this particular interface. First it will say whether this IP address belongs to the same machine or any other machine. So if it is not available here, then it will send a packet to the to whom it should send. How I will come to know that? To whom I need to send? So okay, cable was connected to this particular router or a switch, but how I can send a packet to that particular device? Okay, router or a switch, because this router will be having an IP address called the gateway. Okay, so gateway will be the common and the broadcast will be common for all the devices. Why is that needed? Because gateway is a point of contact to any device. Okay, he will take the decision where your actual device is. Okay, let's say if I want to talk to someone. Okay, so or let's say for example, okay, let's say I want to talk to some particular person. Name is a common thing, right? So name is a common thing for every person. So for every person will have its own individual name. Okay, so every person, like we call it as people, right? So people word is a common. Okay, for everyone. Whether it is she or he or whatever it is, people are a common thing. Okay, and the names are different. Let's say you will be having one name, I will be having one name, other people might be having other names. So names is a different thing. So here you can take the same example. It's not accurate, but yeah. So people are nothing but here it's nothing but a gateway. Why? Because when you are sending a packet from one device to another device, it will go through the gateway. Okay, gateway in the sense, let's say your entry point. Let's say your house or your shopping mall, when you go, right, entry point will be there. Okay, everybody has to enter into that particular mall or your home from that particular entrance. Okay, let's and exit is also the same. Let's say entry and exit are from the same window. So your packet which is coming inside to that particular network or a device and leaving from that particular device has to go through a common IP address. That is nothing but a gateway. Okay. So gateway is a point of contact to your network. Now I know what is my gateway. So I will send a request to that particular gateway, and gateway will see, means this router or a switch will see where is that particular destination. What is the destination? 192.168.120.4. Now, what router or switch will do, first it will send a signal, because right away it doesn't know, right, where it is exactly. So in the background, what will happen? It will send a signal to all the devices which are connected to this particular router or a switch. To send that signal to all the devices which are connected, it will use a common IP address called broadcast. So broadcast is a IP address which will be common for all the devices, even gateway as well. But the broadcast will be used to send a signal, okay, and get a response. Okay, for that it will allocate this IP address. Okay, in this same network. Okay, now that broadcast will so it will reach to that particular devices. Whichever device is responding, that will be treated as a destination. So now the gateway will send a packet to that particular device. Okay, so that's how it happens. So gateway is to enter to that particular network, or a packet which is entering into that particular network and leaving from that particular network will be happen through that particular gateway. Okay, the gateway IP address. Okay, broadcast is nothing but a common IP address which will be allocated for helping your device like router and switch to send some signals to identify your device. Okay, that's how it is. Okay, so that is all about your gateway and broadcast right now. So that is what I'm saying. So every network will have a gateway and IP broadcast IP address. Okay, now let's take one more example and see how it works. Same class C network, but here I will take some example called 10.0/26. Okay, so this is my CIDR. CIDR. Okay, now what is my network? My network is 192.168.10.0. What is your subnet? Subnet is /24. So which is nothing but, sorry, /26. So can someone tell me what is a decimal for this? You can convert into binary from your end, and you can just tell me the decimal for this. Totally 26 bits. So just please calculate and let me know. What is a subnet? /26 in decimal format. Any guess? No? Okay, that's fine for me. So now 26 in the sense totally how many bits? 26 bits. So the maximum bits of IPv4 is 32, right? Even your subnet is also represented in IPv4 format, which I have already told, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot. So totally how many? 16. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dot. So total 24. Still it is not satisfied. We need additional 2 bits, right? 1, 2. Rest of the bits are 0. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. So totally 32 bits. So this is how it is. So how will you convert this into decimal format now? At least tell me now what is the decimal format. Please respond to the statement. Now tell me the decimal format. Now I've written the binary, right?
It's 255 dot
255 dot.
255 dot again
Okay. Okay.
in 255 and
So here
2
two bits are occupied, right? So what
yeah
is the value on the left portion? 2 to the power of 7. What is the value? 128.
35 sorry
128.
128
Yeah.
yeah
Plus one more
28
bit is occupied. It is 2 to
6
the power of 64. Right. So what is the value?
124
Plus 64. 192. Right. So this is
yeah
how it is. Okay. So this is how we have to calculate. So now we at least you got some idea, right? So how to calculate your subnet in decimal format. So this is how it is represented. Okay. So this is how it is. So now, so this subnet is common for all the devices which are connected to your network. That's okay. Now, how to calculate, how to find, and okay, I forgot to tell. Okay, what is your network right now? Which class it is? Which class it is?
it's class C again
Class C. Yeah, class C network it is. Okay, 192, right? So class C network. So what is a class C network default subnet mask? For class C?
192 dot
No, no, no. That's okay, but I'm talking about default subnet mask. Default subnet mask table. Look at the table. Slash
24
24, right? Yeah. So /24 it is. So just remember this particular point. Okay. Now let's calculate now. So now I want to calculate how many networks we can create from this CIDR, and in each network how many IP addresses we can use. Okay. So let's see how to find number of networks. Okay. Now what is the formula? 2 to the power of n,
yeah
right? What is n here?
number of bits borrowed from host ID
Number of bits borrowed from host ID. Okay, that's fine. So what is your host ID then? Your host ID for class C network falls under this, right? This is how it is. If you look at the table once again, it falls here, right? The last byte. The last byte represents your host ID. Rest of the first, second, third represents network ID. Always your network ID will never change, which means that this portion of IP address will never change. Means 192.168.10 will never change. After dot, that will get changed. So how it should get changed? Let us try to see. So the number of bits borrowed from the host bit. So how many bits we have borrowed from host bit?
2.
2. Yeah, exactly. Why? Because your default subnet mask is /24 and you are using 26. So additionally 2 bits are borrowed from the host bit. So from this particular portion, we have borrowed additionally 2 bits, right? So that's the reason. So what is the value for this? 4. So total number of networks we can create is, so number of networks, okay, to be created are 4. Okay, so now you came to know that there are totally 4 networks. So how is that calculated? So how is this divided into 4 networks? Let's try to understand. But before that, we have to know how many IP addresses falls under each network, right? So how to find number of IP addresses in each network? Each network. Okay. So what's the formula? To the power of n, same. Again it is. Okay. What is n here again? Number of bits left
Left.
in host ID. Right. So let's do now. So 2 to the power of n. What is the value? N.
6.
6, obviously. See, 2 bits are already occupied by your network, has taken 2 bits, and the rest of the bits which are allowed is like 8 minus 2. So total 6. So what's the value for this?
64.
64, exactly. So 64. So this will tell you that each network will have 64-bit IP address. Number of IP addresses in each network are 64. Okay, now this is fine. But how will you divide now? Now tell me totally 4 networks. So what is your first network? Starting IP address and ending IP address. Any guess? Your network is 192.168.10.0. Okay. Now, what will be the starting IP address and end IP address in network 1? So, totally 4 networks, right? So, how will you divide this 192.168.10.0 up to 255? How you can divide this into 4 parts? Simple thing, add just 64 at the end. Okay, 64 in the sense 192.168.10.63, right? So, this is your first network. Second network is 192.168.10. Add one more 64. What is the value?
127.
Sorry,
127.
128. Let's say it is 120. No, right. It will start at 64. Next IP address, right? Next IP
Yeah.
address comes under the second network. So what is the maximum value then?
128.
127. Not 128. Actually, it is 127 because you are adding 64 as well, right? So
Okay.
168.10.127. Okay. What is the next IP address? 192.168.10. Just add 64. But before that, you can tell that it is 128. Okay.
Yeah.
Add 64 to this. 64 minus 1. 192.168.10. If you add 64, what is the value?
191.
191, right? And
Yeah.
next 192.168.10.192, right? And then 192.168.10.250,
255.
254. 5 words. Yeah. Okay. So you can tell it is like 255. Okay. So this is how it is. Okay. So this is how you represent. Now you got totally 4 networks. Your first network's IP address starts at 0 to 63. In this, tell me what is your gateway. Now your gateway is the starting IP address. Let's say 192.168. You cannot allocate 0, right? So it will be 1. Okay. What is your broadcast then?
63.
Yeah, so broadcast will be 192.168 last IP address. Okay, 10.63. Okay, this is how it is. Similarly, you can say here in the same way. Now the gateway will be 192.168.10.65. Sorry, 64. You can add this as gateway. Okay, the first IP address. Then the last IP address is nothing but 127. Rest of the IP addresses you can use. So totally, how many IP addresses we can allocate to the actual devices? 62. Okay, 64 minus 2 is equal to 62. So 62 devices can be connected in each network. Okay, if my formula is correct or not, let's verify. So how you can verify? In Google, if you try to search for IP address calculator, right? Calculator. Okay, so you can open this one, calculator.net. I'll tell you. So it is class C network. What is your subnet? It is slash 26. What is your network IP address? 192.168.10.0. Now just give calculate. So we are using IPv4, right? So just click on calculate. So did you got the same? Number of usable host 62. Total number of host 64. What is your starting and ending? This is how it is. You got the same? 63 is your broadcast for the first network. Okay. So did I tell the same thing? Subnet mask 255.255.255.192. Okay. So this is how you got the total 4 networks. Okay. In each network you can calculate. See this particular table. Okay. So this is how it is. So got the point what I've told. So in this way, you can use this simple formula to calculate your IPv4 address for a given CIDR. So for your requirement, so tell me now, I want to connect 10 devices of class C network. I want to use class C network. I want to connect only 10 devices. So which CIDR is correct for us? So calculate and tell me tomorrow. Okay. So I want to connect only approximately near to, not I'm saying like accurate. I'm saying that two numbers or two devices may be additional or minus. Okay, I want to connect approximately 10 devices in a network of class C. So what CIDR you will take? Okay, so that is what you have to calculate and let me know. Okay, so with this like approach or the things which you know right now, let us see how to assign an IP address or what is the IP addresses networks we have in host only adapt like in this virtual box. Okay, now in the virtual box, I told you there are 3 types of important networks. Okay, so that those are nothing but let me open a paint and explain. So you have installed Oracle VirtualBox on your host machine. Okay, then there are 3 important network types. One is NAT, which you have already seen. Another one is host only, and the next one is bridge. So these are the 3 important network types in host only. Okay, so NAT by default, you know that when you create a virtual machine, if you don't modify anything, by default you will get an NAT for your device. Okay, and there is one more network type is called as host only network. Okay, host only network, and then we have bridge network. Okay, now if your system or if your device is connected to NAT, okay, so what happens? Let's say you have only one adapter which is connected to NAT. Totally we can allocate 4 adapters to the virtual machine, which I've already told, right? So if you go to the settings, go to the network portion, you can see totally we can attach 4 adapters, which means that 4 virtual interfaces. Okay, in this I enabled only one, which is default one. If you go to the second one, nothing was enabled. Third also nothing enabled. Fourth nothing enabled. Only first adapter is enabled and it is using NAT. Okay, now when this is happening, it will get an IP address from this particular NAT. For example, it is 10.0.2.15/24. That is what it is allocated. Now, what is the advantage of this? You can connect to the internet. This is possible. If I do a ping google.com, it is possible. Okay. So let me start this particular mission and let me show you that. I think I've already shown this. Okay. So with this NAT, what will happen? If you try to do ping google.com, Okay, there is spelling mistake. That's okay. So if you try to ping google.com, it will go to the NAT. So this packet will come to this particular NAT by the gateway. And once it is reached to the NAT, it will go to the internet. So what will happen? This NAT will send a packet to your base host machine by Windows, what I'm using right now. It will go to the Windows, and from the Windows adapter, Wi-Fi or Ethernet card, it will send a packet to my router, and from the router, it will go to the internet service provider. From there, it will contact to the google.com. That's how it happens. So that's how the internet connection will happen. But from outside in the sense, if you are outside the NAT network, which means that from your base machine or from outside the base machine, from any other device, if you try to connect to this particular virtual machine, it is not possible. Why? Because income packets are blocked on this particular network. Incoming packets are not allowed in this network. Okay, that is a default behavior. So in order to overcome this particular default behavior by using only NAT network, what I have done, I did a port forwarding, right? I did a port forwarding. Okay, so that is what I have done. What I have done on the host machine, I binded some particular port number to my virtual machine port number called 22. So where I did this, if you go to the network, okay, so since it is blocking that, what I did, I went to a port forwarding. So here you can see on the host machine, I opened a port number called 2424 and I binded that particular port number to 22 because I know that I want to connect to 22 port number inside the virtual machine. So I binded 2424 port number to my 22 port number on my what do you call it? A virtual machine. Okay, so that is what I have done. So now, sorry, I opened this. So now what I want to do. So this is the default behavior. So what is my problem? Problem in the sense I always need to do some port forwarding. Let's say tomorrow I'm running some application. For that application also I need to do some port forwarding. So this is what I have to do. That's fine for some time period. But how many ports I need to bind? Okay, because of this, some particular port number I'm just opening in my base machine, which is not recommended in the normal base, right? So to overcome this particular approach, okay, we can use host only, which means that now I can use another adapter to connect my virtual machine to the host network. Okay, so this host network, you can create a number of host networks. Okay, so it depends what CIDR you are using. So to see that particular host networks, click on tools. Okay, go to the tools in Oracle VirtualBox. Click on this particular three hyphens here. You will get some list. In this list, go to the network. So here you can see there are totally two host only adapters. Okay, in this first adapter, you can see it is using class C network 192.168.94.1/24. One in the sense actually it is a gateway. Okay, and there is no DHCP enabled. DHCP is not enabled in the sense you will not get automatically an IP address. You have to assign. Okay, if your device is connected to this particular adapter. Okay, now let's say I want to connect my virtual machine to this particular host only. Okay, and let's say host only network in the sense the advantage of this host only network in the sense you can connect from the base machine. If you want to do an SSH, now no need to do a port forwarding. I can remove this particular port forwarding. I can do an SSH with the host only IP address. Okay, so what I can do, I can give the root at the rate and I can give IP address, let's say for example 192.168.94 dot, let's say 10 or 20, whatever it is. Okay, now if I use this approach, I can connect to the my device. This is possible, but the problem with host only network in the sense you cannot connect to the internet. If you are using only host only, you cannot connect to the internet, but within the local area network you can connect with each other. Means other devices can connect to my host only, and from the base machine I can connect to my host only network. That is possible, but you cannot get an internet connection from this particular host only network. That is the first thing you have to remember. Okay, so let me show you practically, is that true or not. Okay, so what I will do, instead of showing this particular network as NAT, I will use it as host only. Okay, which adapter you want to use, it's up to you. I'm using the first adapter, which is nothing but 192.168 94.1/24. Okay, Advanced mode, you can say promiscuous mode as allow all. Allow all in the sense you can allow the connections from the base machine, from other devices, other virtual machines to this particular network. Okay, so that is called as allow all. So click on OK. So nothing. Okay, let's try to boot this particular virtual machine right now. It's already booted. So I think so. Yeah. So root test 123. So this is, let me see the IP address. It's showing you the nothing, right? So what I can do is nothing but net plan apply. So if you try to see now, that is a command to update the network details. Okay. Even after updating that, if you see your ENP0S3 network hasn't got any IP address. What could be the reason? I told you one point when I'm showing my host to net adapter. What is that? Any guess? I didn't got IP address. See, my interface is up. You can see the state up,
DHCP is
but
not
still,
enabled.
yeah, exactly. So why? Because if you look at this particular networking part, here I have not enabled DHCP. So DHCP server is not enabled. So that's the reason your DHCP client is not able to contact to that particular server and able to get the IP address. Okay. So if I enable this, okay, if I go to this, if I enable the DHCP server, from this range you will get an IP address. Okay. So let's see. Now again I will tell net plan apply. Okay. Now still you haven't got IP address. So what I can do is nothing but let me it's taking some time, just a second. So let me reboot my system. Okay, reboot this. Network functionality is not working. So your system is getting booted. Let's wait. So it is still got stuck. Let me do a power off. Let me enable this. And let me just 1 second. Let me disable this once again, and let me enable this because it is not applied properly. So now if I boot this one, let me start my virtual machine once again. Okay, now it worked properly because it didn't took much time in the network configuration, right? So that's the reason. So from there I came to know it. So I just logged in with my username password of root. If I execute IP space A command, you can see you got an IP address from 101. Why? Because if you look at your DHCP settings, it starts from 191. That is what I have told. Though I can start from what do we say from 0, my 100 IP address is nothing but a server IP address, which means that this is allocated to server. I could have changed it to 1, and then here I could have given 101 and 2 to 254. So but here it was default like this actually. Okay, that's okay for me. But now you can see you got an IP address, right? Now if I try to do a ping google.com, see, host not available. This is the reason, because you will not able to add a route. See, route was added, but still 192.168.56 route, it's not working as per the expectation. Okay, so this is how it is. So now if you try to see, it's already enabled with the DHCP. So how I can tell you, /etc net plan. First remember this particular file, and then I will tell you. See, DHCP is set to true, which means that gateway and all these details, broadcast and everything should be added automatically. So this has not happened. So that's the reason it is not able to connect to the internet. Why? Because this host only adapter is only for LAN, local area network connection, which means that with this network I can do an SSH, but I cannot communicate to the internet. So let's see. So 192.168.94.101. Okay. So username is root. What is the IP address? Oh, 56 it is. Sorry. Ninety-two dot one sixty-eight dot 56 dot. Just a second. Why it's 56? It's 94, right? Okay, it got from here. But I've not enabled this. Okay. Just a second. Let me see. Something must happen. What I enabled. Let me cross check. Go here. Go to your VM. I enabled only adapter. Hmm. But why it got from 56? I haven't enabled it. Okay, let me do one thing. So let me modify the IP address, or let me run DH client. This is something a fault. See, I connected to an adapter called 56.101, and you can see it is creating a mess. Okay, so what I can do here now, I will hard code. Okay, hard code in the sense I'm trying to add a static IP address. So /etc net plan with the configuration file. Just open this file in order to add a static in the sense, let's assume that there is no DHCP enabled. Okay, so what I will do is nothing but, let's assume that there is no DHCP enabled, which means that this particular flag should be set to false. Okay, now I want to allocate the IP address. So IP address, so now you need to allocate the addresses, right? IPv4 address. So this IPv4 address, if you want to understand like how to add this particular IPv4 address, I clearly documented here. You can, if you want, you can just refer this particular documentation as well. Okay, so how to add an IP address, name servers, address and all, it is already written in this example. So I'm trying to follow the same thing. Okay, you have to set your DHCP4 to false, and then you need to add your address. Okay, so if you go back here, we need to add something like addresses, and let's say for example hyphen. Okay, it is a YAML format. Okay, so 192.168.94.101. Okay, so this is what I have added, and the name servers or the gateway. So gateway 4. So gateway is nothing but, I know that 192.168.94 dot one is a gateway. Okay, and the name servers, we don't have any name servers actually right now, but still I will add Google name servers. So here we can see the DNS name servers. So we can see the name servers like this. Okay, so name servers, and under this you can add with hyphens like this 8.8.8.8, or we can add in a list format, which you can see the example 8.8.4.4. So these are the Google name servers. Okay, so let's save this file and come on. See why these name servers are needed. Your packet has to flow to the internet and then it should be responded, right? So without having the name servers, it cannot do the DNS forward lookup or a reverse lookup. That will not happen. Okay, so just save this file, come out. In order to apply this particular changes, let's say I did some particular configuration changes, how we did for SSHD configuration file, right? What we did a restart to your service, SSHD service. So similar to that, whenever you do some changes to your network configuration file, there is a command which you have to execute. That is nothing but net plan apply. Okay, so just execute this command. It is telling you that error in network definition address. Okay, so I did slight mistake, which is nothing but you need to write your IP address in this format. Okay, CIDR notation. Okay, so just save this file and come out. Okay, and just save this file. After this, again, it is telling you that error in network definition expecting mapping. Okay, so it is expecting for mapping. So here the mistake is, one more mistake is nothing but name servers. You need to add something like addresses. Under this I need to add like this. Okay, so what I need to do now, add spaces to this. Okay, this is how it is. Okay, so addresses, this is fine. Just save and come out. Now let us try to apply, and now you can see you haven't seen any syntax issues. Okay, so now the net plan has been applied successfully. So let us see what is IP address, whether it is got reflected or not. You can see the IP address got reflected. Okay, so let me try to do an SSH. Anyway, you cannot do a ping google.com, that's default behavior. You cannot do a ping google.com, that is not possible. But let me try to do an SSH, right? So I'm trying to do an, not this one. Close this. So take a session, SSH, give the IP address 192.168.94.101, root, enter. You can say it is prompting for IP address, which means that if it is prompting for password, in the sense you're almost reached to the server, right? Authentication, it is just only asking for authentication. So let me give the password. If password is valid, and if my, okay, I did a slight mistake. You can say I gave root 4, the username is root, right? So just spelling mistake. Okay, 192.168.94.101. Okay, is root, username is root, enter. So now it is prompting for the password. Test123 is my password, which I generally give. It is saying, do you want to save the password? Yes. So done. Now you can see you are able to connect. See, SSH and these things are possible. Okay, but the problem is you cannot connect to the internet, which means that internally you can communicate. You can log into the machine. No need to do a port forwarding and all. You can do these things, but internet connectivity is not possible. Okay, so that's one thing you have to remember. Okay, so that is one thing you have to remember. So now what I will do right now, so let's set down this particular virtual machine right now with init 0. What I will do is nothing but I will go to my Oracle virtual box. I will enable the second adapter, okay, for internet connection. Okay, one is for internal communication, to do an SSH, to communicate to my virtual machine. I will use this first adapter. Second adapter, I will be connecting to my NAT network so that I can get internet connection as well. Okay, so both the conditions will get satisfied. Okay, but we are using two interfaces here. That's the only thing what we are doing right now. See, two adapters are enabled. First adapter is for host only. second adapter is for NAT. Okay, let's again boot this particular virtual machine. Hope you are getting the points. So please let me know if you are getting some confused or not. The only thing what I suggest is nothing but go practice, watch the video, and try to replicate the same thing from your end. So simple to remember. Okay. If you hear what I say and if I don't practice, if you don't practice anything, just like it will get wiped out from your mind. It will not get registered. So once I get a login prompt, so what I can do is nothing but I can reconnect with this session with Shift R, means capital R. Again, it is trying to do some connection, but I need to see whether the virtual machine is up or not. So now we can see it is up. Okay. So now you can see the IP. You totally have these many interfaces, right? Where is it? Yeah. You have totally additional interface right now. This interface is down. Okay. It is not yet enabled. Why? Because in the configuration file, it is not added. Okay. So we have to go and we have to add. And remember, it is a DHCP. Okay. So when this is added as a DHCP, let's see what you have to do. So do the configuration changes, net plan, open this file. Now there is no need to enable the gateway, not the gateway actually, no need of gateway name server. Okay, we will be using NAT gateway to send a packet from my system. See, when my system wants to communicate to the internet or any other device, it will use NAT as a gateway as a to point of contact. Okay, so that's the reason I have removed it. So now ENP0S8 is my interface name, the second interface. Okay, and the DHCP 4 is set to true. That's it. Okay, save this file and come out. After this, what we have to do? Net plan apply. After applying this net plan, if you execute IP space A command, you can see the NAT network IP address. Okay, now you can see automatically it will add a route table as well. Everything is working fine. Now let me verify the internet connection. You can see I was able to connect to the internet and my SSH login is working fine. Let me do a reconnect. Okay, see, I was able to do an SSH with this IP address, host only IP, but for internet connection, I'm using that particular IP address to send the packet outside. Okay, so this is how it is. Okay, but the problem is we are using two different interfaces actually. Okay, it's not a big deal. We can use it. So this is one way to good. It is a good approach actually. Okay, you are not exposing your application, your server outside. Okay, so that's how it. Even from the router, if I connected a mobile, right? Let's say a mobile is connected to my router, and if I try to do a ping 192.168.94.101, it is not possible to connect. And even if I use 10.0.3.15, it is not possible. Okay, anyway, it is restricted. Okay, it is secured. From my local laptop, if I want to log into my virtual machine, it is possible because I am using this particular interface to connect this IP address. And for internet connection, it is sending a packet from this particular IP address to outside. Okay, so this is how it is. Now, if I don't want to use two interfaces, I want to have internet connection as well as internal communication. Internal communication, both I need to satisfy in one particular interface. For that, you have to use bridge. Okay, so let me try to explain that. Let me shut down this. Okay, what you have to do is nothing but you have to use a bridge network. So what is a bridge? Now let's say it is a simple thing. Now you will create a virtual machine and your virtual machine will be connected to the bridge network. So this bridge network, what it will do, it will contact to your router. Okay, so it will contact to your router and it will get an IP address. How your base machine is getting an IP address, right, from the router? Similarly, now your virtual machine also will get an IP address from the router. Let me show you the IP address of my router. Okay, if you execute ipconfig, you can see my IP address. It is 192.168.0.7 and this is my subnet mask and this is my gateway. So I have to make a same note of my subnet and gateways also should be common to my virtual machine. Only the IP address will get changed. Okay, it will be 192.168 some 0 dot some IP address I can allocate. So let us do that. So now no need of two interfaces, only one interface enough. So just disable this, and this interface I need to connect to bridge. Okay. So advanced mode, allow all, it's fine. So then let's start. It will take some time to boot your network. Why? Because as per the virtual machine configuration file, it is having something which is not getting satisfied, right? So it will take few minutes in the networking portion. Okay. When it is trying to start your network service in the boot process, it will get delayed. Why? Because there is no second interface, and your configuration file was written for the second interface as well. And the first interface now it is DHCP, but you have disabled the DHCP in the configuration file based on older interface, right? So it will take some time. So let's wait. Oh, okay. Now if you log in, if you look at your IP address, oh, you can see what is that 192.168.94.101 only. You don't see any second interface, that's fine. Okay. Now if I try to do an SSH, see what happens. It will not able to connect because now this is no IP address. See, your device is now, your virtual machine is not connected to this network, right? So that's the reason it is not able to identify that particular IP. Okay. So what we have to do, just open the configuration file, net plan configuration file. So I have to remove the second interface entries, and first interface I can use NAT. See, DHCP can be, I can use DHCP, or I can do another way as well. First let me enable DHCP. Sorry, DHCP is set to true. Save this file because your router is enabled with DHCP server by default. Okay, so that's the reason. Now if I do net plan apply, it is successful. Now if you see your IP address, it is 192.168.0.4. You got the first proper IP address. Now try to do a ping google.com. See, it is able to connect to the internet. From outside, let me try to connect to my virtual machine. See, it is prompting for the password. You can see its password is already saved. Now you can see you are able to connect. So with one interface only, you are able to have internet connection as well as internal communication. If you want that approach, you can use bridge. But the problem is, if your device is, your virtual machine is now using this router, that's fine. Tomorrow you took your laptop to another location. Let's say if you are working from work from home, you'll be traveling here and there, right? So let's say you want to practice your Kubernetes or Docker, and you are using bridge network. Let's say you are using a different router right now. Now I'm using D-Link, let's say for example. That by default every D-Link will use 192.168.0.0/24 series. If you are using TP-Link or any other device router, it will use 192.168.1.0/24. So IP address will change. So again you have to change your IP address in your configuration file. For Kubernetes, once your cluster is formed, you cannot change your IP address. It will create some mess. So that's the only problem we have. If you're connecting daily to the same router, that's fine. And same network with the same router, that's fine. A different router also can have the same network. If it is a different network, then it will fail. Okay, that's the only point you have to remember. Okay, if you don't want to take this headaches at all, try to use NAT for internet connection, host only adapter for all this. Wherever you go, you can use these two interfaces. Okay, this is all about networking in your VirtualBox and actual Linux administration. Okay, so hope you got the points what I've told. Just practice from your end and let me know if you have any questions. Okay, any questions you can just ask me right now, or else we can wind up the session. I see no questions actually. If you are really understood or not, I'm not able to understand. Yeah, yeah, Uday.
Sudhir, what about this document? You do share it or how do you
This
share it?
document, right? So management will be sharing today. So this document which I gave in Evernote, right, which I opened. So this document you will get it as a PDF to you. Okay.
It's there. This is the you are running
Sorry.
a VM and Docker and Ubuntu in the
Yeah.
hypervisor. So that's fine. I can understand what you're talking about in the netting and hosting point. But my question is different. I have a separate lab setup which is running in a VMware form on a single server. So I'm playing with the Docker and Kubernetes in that.
See, it
So I have
depends.
a
See, the point here,
yeah,
the
I
whole
understand on
point
that.
here is,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
So here the whole point is to understand how to calculate your IP addresses and networking and what kind of interfaces we have. So this might change to a different, let's say if you're using VMware ESXi or something, it will change. Why? Because there the terminology they call it as public IP. So public IP in the sense the IP address which is reachable through the internet. Okay. And they call it as private IP which is reachable only within the LAN. The concept is as per the technical term what they call, but ultimately this particular interface is CIDR, you'll get it, and that's how you need to configure. Configuring the IP address in operating system is same, or whether you call it as public or whether you call it as public or a private, you have to do the changes in the configuration file as per the requirement. Okay, wherever the platform it is, the concept is the same.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Because Oracle VirtualBox has three main interfaces, so that's the reason I explained clearly about that. So now you understood, right, what is NATing. Okay, how is that works, and what is host only and what is bridge. Okay, bridge in the sense you can assume that as a public network. Host and adapter you can assume that like a private network. NAT is nothing but a NAT, what you call. Okay,
yeah,
simple
yeah. So
simple thing if you compare.
I can understand what we are trying to achieve here, but I'm not sure about the others how they can understand about the netting hosting because
Yes. See, this is simple thing,
frankly,
right? So they have to do practically, and they have to do it right. So then they will understand how it works. See, practically I've shown how this host and adapter works, right? There is no other way for us to do some enable for that particular internet connection. Host and adapter is designed only for internal LAN communication. Okay, local area network connection, right? So then they have to practice and they will come to know whether they are able to reach from the base mission or not, what I have shown the example, right? Then they will understand the purpose or the intention of that particular network. So that will be easy for them to understand, the new guys who are joined this particular course. Yeah. Yeah, Uday.
When we be actually doing this into the architecture and also there, I mean, how many more days on this networking?
But this networking is useful for you when you're forming your Kubernetes cluster and Docker networking, right? Inside the Docker also, you have to manage your networking for your applications, right? Then you
Yeah.
have to know what is a CIDR, how to create your own bridge network inside that particular Docker. It is called as bridge network. Okay, so you have to
Okay.
know how to allocate a CIDR, how to allocate a gateway. So you have to understand that. So if I don't explain this right away, it will be tough to understand in that particular portion. So that's the reason. Okay,
Right.
this will be useful for you there. Okay,
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
even for troubleshooting as well. Okay, I'll show you some troubleshooting parts when you come across Docker and Kubernetes. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So tomorrow we'll be starting with Docker. Okay. So from tomorrow we'll be actually starting with Docker networking. So what is tomorrow? Saturday?
Yeah, it should be Saturday.
Okay. So from Monday we'll be starting with Docker. Okay. So get ready with your VMs. You know how to. Oh, sorry. Sorry to forget. I think some videos are not even shared with what I told, like Google account creation and all. Right. Those videos, this documents, everything will be shared by today itself. So try to on the weekend who are working employees, right? They might get some space only on Saturday and Sunday, right? So go Saturday and Sunday. Just open the documents, try to set your VMs ready or your Google account ready so that from Monday we can start our Docker. Okay. So you can
Okay.
practice parallelly, or once a course is or once a class was done, you can practice in your free time. Okay. Thank you.